I got asked if I liked Binding Vows or if I view them as a narrative crutch. So let's talk about that and a few other questions, but if you're not caught up through 261 of the manga, you'll probably want to skip this one. Alright, so this question comes to us from Rito, and he wants to know my general take on Binding Vows, because to him, they often seem like convenient narrative tools that Gege just uses when he needs to pull something out of nowhere to make something happen. And I don't fault anybody for having this take, it's a valid opinion, especially recently with Sukuna being a Binding Vow merchant, just stacking them up to continue fighting, right? But me personally, I like the concept a lot. It's obviously heavily inspired by Hunter x Hunter and Nin contracts, and I also enjoyed it in that story. And I think it's just kind of a cool device, especially under the microscope of how Sukuna uses them, because yes, we've seen Binding Vows all over the place in JJK, but it mainly is Sukuna that I hear this complaint about, and again, especially recently. But he is the pinnacle of Jujutsu, so I love that he is the master of the Binding Vow and is able to bend them to his will in order to, reach the top, as it were. So for me, I think it's a cool concept. I don't think we'll necessarily get all of the answers. Like, I don't expect Gege to just give us a bunch of exposition explaining Binding Vows. Like, and I've talked about this in previous videos, but like, who are you making the vow with? Is there some like God? Is it just some karmic force of the universe? So, I don't think those lines will necessarily get filled in, but I think for the important Binding Vows, Gege will give us the relevant information, just like we got with the world cutting slash that ended up taking out Gojo, right? That was a big question mark for a long time, but ultimately we found out that Sukuna made a Binding Vow and added all these extra requirements in order to get it off in the moment. So for me, I don't ever think it's Gege like writing himself into a corner and then being like, oh God, what do I do? Like, what have I done here? I need to do something to get out of this. And he's like, Binding Vow, people will buy that. I don't think that's his mindset. Maybe it is for all I know, but I think, I'm going to put a little bit more trust in his writing and know that like when he uses those things, they're well thought out and planned. And again, for like narratively important moments, I think we will get more of an explanation. So yeah, this is getting long-winded, but yeah, I like Binding Vows a lot. And one last thing I'll add at the end here to answer your question of why doesn't Yuji, or anyone else for that matter, make Binding Vows like Sukuna does to achieve these crazy feats, and I just don't think they're capable of it. I think this again speaks to Sukuna's Jujutsu mastery, which I like. Alright, let's keep this video going, and next up we got this from 10 Milli, who wanted to let me know that there was a dark tournament happening in the Discord server as well. Quick plug, join the Discord server, a lot of cool stuff going on in there, plus we got JJK 262 leaks tonight, so that'll be fun, but this is actually in reference to the custom curse technique tournament that we have going on in the server, where submissions are closed, the tournament has begun, so new people can't join it at this point, but there are other tournaments and practice fights and all that jazz going on all the time. I wasn't familiar with this tournament, so I will definitely check it out. Next up, we have this generous donation from William, who wants to know, why did Megami summon Maharaga instead of the demon dog? And I assume you're talking about during Shibuya when he summoned the Obstapa versus Haruta. And in that case, Megami was basically already gone, so he figured, why not, right? Because you got to remember, he was coming off the fight with Toji where he got really worked up, and then Haruta just slashes him across the back. So in Megami's mind, he was about to die, so he says, might as well take you with me. And in that case, I'm going to summon the most powerful thing I have as kind of a one last hurrah trump card. Next up, we have a super kind donation from Darren. Y'all can pause and read it if you want to, but thank you so much for the kind words, man. And I hope when you say you got everything spoiled, it wasn't because of my videos. I do try to always give the spoiler warning, but, sometimes it happens. But I'm so glad that you got into the manga and you're enjoying the content. Thank you so much, man. Next, Blue Light wants to know if I could debunk those who say Gojo was only viewed as a weapon, or do I agree with that? And here's what I'll say. Gojo most definitely was viewed as a weapon, but he wasn't only viewed as a weapon. That only is the operative term there, because for large portions of his life, he was treated as a weapon by society and the vast majority of people, but he wasn't only viewed as one. It largely depends on who we're talking about, right? Those closest to Gojo didn't view him as a weapon, and I think this narrative is largely stemming from the fact that Yuta is using his body right now. So he is literally being used as a weapon, but that doesn't mean he was only viewed that way. And Yuta is a perfect example of someone somebody who didn't view him that way, even though he is the one using the body right now. That's part of the whole tragedy of all of this, right? But Yuta, even in the previous chapter, was begging Gojo to let him share the burden of being a monster. You know, he was like, let me come with you to the higher ups. Like, you don't have to do this alone. And Gojo didn't let him, which was unfortunate, and part of even pushing Akotsu further into that monster corner, because he's like, Gojo's shouldering this alone, so now I have to do that for everybody else now that he's gone. And I've spoken about the tragedy of this kind of direction of Akotsu's character arc and everything. And I'm getting kind of long-winded and away from the point here, but Gojo was not only viewed as a weapon, but that is like a tragic facet of his character, in that the majority of people viewed him that way. And finally, I got this question from Edwin, who wanted to know, did we ever figure out the panel that was shown while interviewing at the manga studio? The one where a lot of people thought it was young Gojo. So in case you guys weren't around when this happened, this is what he's referring to. This man went to the studio where JJK's editor was working out of and did an interview and stuff. And while he was doing that, he saw a panel that the editor was working on of a chapter that hadn't come out yet. And we were told that it was from a chapter that would be relatively soon, meaning like the next 1 or 2 chapters from where we were at the time. So a lot of people speculated about what did he see, and it kept being like, well, it didn't seem like it was anything in that chapter. And anyways, since we're like 12 chapters past this now, I'm pretty sure most people agree that it had to have been the chapter where Yuta took out Kenjaku, and there's a few panels that seemingly line up to that blurry panel, but obviously we don't know for sure, but that makes sense to me. That's it for this one, y'all. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to join us for the leaks tonight in the Discord.